Good morning. Good morning. I'm Luiza Demôro. I'm Global Head of Energy Transitions at BloombergNEF. And I'm very happy to be joined today by Esther Finidori, CSO of Schneider Electric, and Manish Pant, EVP of International Operations, focused on Global South. And today we're talking about how the Global South can take role and why it's fundamental actor in driving sustainability across the planet. And I want to jump right in with a question for both of you, and maybe starting from you, Esther. And just starting from the very beginning, why is this conversation important? Why is discussing the role of Global South in sustainability urgent right now? And I think it's good that we're in Brazil having this discussion today.
So I think in the past we've had two strong bias. The first one is a very European and US centric lens to defining what the transition means, what does it entails, and how do we carry it forward. I'm a European myself, so I can say it all the more. Thinking that replicating models that have been successful in Europe or in the US can work in other countries. And that's deeply wrong because, of course, from a global challenge, the same objective, the way this will happen in every country, and by the way, Global South is not a homogeneous entity per country, and it will be very different in Nigeria than in Brazil. You need very strong local adaptation, both from an environmental perspective, but as well as a social perspective. The second reason why this is wrong is I think this bias has come from an approach of GDP distribution. But global south today is, depending on the definition, 70 to 80% of the global population. So in terms of impact and importance, the weight that we're talking about, this is the number one priority topic that we need to be addressing now.
True. So I think building on what Esther said, it's clear that we don't have to replicate the past. I think the reason why we are having this challenge is that this is a place where is going to be the maximum amount of population growth. I mean, almost 60% of the world population is in the global south. Yes, they want progress. Yes, they want a better life. And the question is that do we need to replicate what we have seen in the developed world to bring the same here or do it differently? And I think that today, with all the technologies, and of course, at Schneider Electric, we are a technology company first. So for us, what we say is that technologies exist today that you are able to leapfrog into this progress world, which is going to be truly unique and much more, I would say, south centric, because you don't have any legacies to break of the past, and therefore we should take this opportunity in global south with this growth of population. Let's keep in mind that we are going to be building in the next 20 years what has taken 100 years to build in the global north, and there's no reason to do it the same way. We have a lot of examples. Let's say if you take the case of Kenya, just in the last decade, they've moved from 30% of energy which was on renewables to 90% today. So they have completely leapfrogged, and it makes it work. So, somewhere there is no reason for us to not think differently, and therefore this topic becomes very particular here.
And it's very timely, I think, that we're in Brazil right now because some of the things you mentioned are quite on the spotlight. I think if we walk around in many pavilions, we're going to hear people talking about how strategic Global South is as a leader in the transition from multiple sectors and multiple aspects, as well as the need for tropicalization, because those countries not only are strategic, some of them are already playing a leading role that is sometimes not seen. And many other markets could be playing leading roles and are not. What is, from the perspective from both of you, what are barriers that are limiting the potential that some emerging countries could be playing in terms of leading roles? And why are they so fundamental strategically?
So there are many answers to your question. I'll pick one topic and we'll see where that leads us. The first, it's the huge assets of global south countries, but it's also, of course, a challenge to address is the youth. The age distribution in these countries is very different, of course, and the population is very young. So there is a huge opportunity to turn those young people into agents of change, but it does require building a lot of new competencies. And this is a challenge, of course. How do we put in the hands of the youth the right competency and also the right, let's say, sense of purpose? It's not just about competencies, it's the empowerment to drive change so that they can lead the change that needs to happen. And that conversation is, of course, it's true everywhere, but the way it's being phrased in the Global South is, of course, very, very unique. And that's one, I don't know if it's a chance or a challenge, you can see it both ways, but that's definitely a huge priority to address the topic.
True. No, I think clearly on people is one of the key topics. You mentioned it because of the population. But then if you look at what the Global South has in terms of, they say that 70% of the renewable potential is here in the Global South. 50% of the minerals that are required for this energy transition are in Global South. 60% of the biodiversity of the world is in Global South. So I think there is, while there are assets, there's also responsibility that I think that is on the Global South. And Brazil being a great example of that, as you said, having a lot of these, to say how we are able to not just give it to the rest of the world, but also develop them for your own progress, for your own energy needs, which are scaling up. Now, what we need to be doing is there's a challenge of training and human potential that we need to fully bring to the right level. It's about financing. Financing here is 7 times more, I would say, costly as compared to the developed world. So there is a need to make these markets more evolved and therefore be able to bring the right capital to make that development. The other is in terms of what we see as probably a collaboration, much more collaboration. You mentioned about the tropical climate. So how we are able to bring in some kind of consistent and common regulations which are able to help ensure that we are not just thinking in terms of sovereign borders, but also looking much larger because of the interconnected world.
Thank you. And I want to start getting a little bit more specific now because you both have recognized that Global South is a lot. We're talking about over 100 countries. We can overgeneralize the topic. And I want to start hearing from you, Esther. How do you incorporate realities of different countries from the Global South into the sustainability targets and global value chains from Schneider perspective?
So the answer I'm going to give you is not specific to sustainability. I'm lucky in the sense that the culture of Schneider is a global strategy, but very local implementation. That's true for the way we drive the business. It's also true on how we want to drive and how we've been executing our sustainability priorities. So we have, overarching global targets, of course, that are common to everyone. Climate, we do have a very strong focus on empowering the youth through the right skills and through the right entrepreneurship mindset. So these are, I would say, our global priorities. But from there, we've been building country per country different programs. They're different by nature. They're different as well in terms of ecosystem. Each country would have a different relevant ecosystem to engage. Which does mean a lot of local capabilities, local sustainability leaders to make those programs a reality so that we can have the right impact. I will give you an example to make it less theoretical. Here in Brazil, we've been working with industry bodies to build competency training capabilities that can access undeserved communities. Typically, for instance, very nice example is a truck equipped with electrical equipment that is able to travel, to be transported to remote areas so that we can bring electrical skills so that everyone can access electricity to undeserved communities that are very remote from urban environments. This is a solution that is relevant in a country like Brazil. Same building capabilities that can go along the rivers, which is not something we would need in Europe, for instance. In Europe, it's been a very different focus. The same program is heavily focused on youth that have really dropped out of school. Not meaning that that can't happen in Brazil as well, but the way to address the right population and to make sure we support those youth in having opportunities for the future and building their own vision and their own purpose for their future. It will be very different local per country, but very different per country, but all building into the same overarching perspective. So this is how we operate in general. This is how we've done it on sustainability as well.
Thank you. And Manish, I want to hear a bit of your real life experience in different countries as well. How have different emerging markets started reshaping some of the narratives that are usually defined by the global north, let's say? And what are, if you can highlight some example that you believe has kind of helped reshape it elsewhere?
Sure. I think first I would like to start by saying that in the global south, different countries, and I can take the case of Singapore where I live, India, Saudi Arabia. I think three countries. First, they have clearly set out their own visions, right? They have the vision 2047 for India, which is to become a developed and self-reliant green India. I mean, the word, is very clear. There is Saudi, which is talking about the vision 2030, but also beyond. The prime minister has talked about celebrating the last barrel of oil or the last drop of oil. Then we look at Singapore, which has this 2030, which is extremely focused on how the country can become more green, both in terms of the buildings. They have a plan for buildings, how they can have 80% of the buildings that are green in the country by 2030, and everything new that is built is going to be green. So a very, very strong focus on that leapfrog that we started discussion about, how they are able to get into doing it in a very different way. The other theoretical part of this is that, and I'm taking words of somebody, Mr. Amitabh Kant of India, who talks about the green premium for the scale of India or for the global south is actually a green discount. The green premium is a green discount because at scale, when you are adopting it, you have the lowest cost of solar in south. You have the lowest cost of storage in south. Incidentally, you have the lowest barrel of molecule also lowest in the south. So we have a very, very strong position in which we are able to build. And if you deploy it at scale, it actually becomes a green discount, more from a green premium. So I would say that this is how we see, where, in the south, we start to see different countries having their own plans, but also very aligned in terms of the direction. And because it's not just for the environment, it is also for economic benefit, because it drives economic benefits. When you have to have this large population that has to get growth, you have to do it in a different way.
Can I echo on that? Because he touched on the point that, out of all this, the entire conversation excites me the most. Without being too simplistic, I think the way, Europe, US has viewed the energy transition is predominantly a constraint, right? Something where we need to transform, but despite all the talking and the narrative, that profoundly is not going to help economic growth. What I see very different happening in those countries that Manish has talked about is that the question of energy supply and low carbon energy supply has started from how do we make that a new competitive advantage to reposition our role in the economy. So just for the COP, we have an internal research institute called the Sustainability Research Institute that publishes scenarios and research papers similar to what BNF would do. And they've published a scenario for Brazil. And the one key learning is that if Brazil leverages its assets, especially in terms of solar as well as wind, this could have as an outcome incredible competitive advantage for the steel and the chemical industry in Brazil. Now, that's a very different conversation because you're talking about how do you create new infrastructure that will support both decarbonization as well as economic growth, creating some incredible differentiation points for those countries. It's the same conversation happening in Middle East. there's so much solar that can then create hydrogen. If you have hydrogen, you can become the powerhouse for all of the primary hard to abate sector in metals, in plastics, etc. So these conversations, they're extremely exciting because then they're about progress and climate together.
And this aligns really well with what we have been seeing. So at a global level, the direction is the same, right? So we need to limit temperature increase to a certain point. But when we start going down, like country commitments and the pathways and the speed of the change, those vary.
True.
And what is interesting is as the cost of the core technologies has been going down and emerging markets can now benefit from that, the story turns into a growth story.
True.
And that is true for so many countries.
Sure. And if I can also add to that, because it's the most interesting topic, right? That you don't use more of something because you have it. I mean, otherwise you would still be riding horses now, right? So it is, you have a new technology, you should adopt it. It's not that because we have a lot of the old or of the existing that we need to continue to stick to it. And I think here we are ready to cross, because if you take the country like India, the highest import today is energy. So if I can become self-reliant, I'm able to divert that towards the rest of the population that deserves the energy of any form, and that's electric that we are going to bring. But we are also able to make it the right choice for the nation.
And you talked a bit, Manish, about policy and some policy examples from India and from other countries. I want to talk a little bit more and expand on the technology side and innovation as well. Is there any technology innovation aspects that you see from emerging countries from the global south that should be or have been expanded to other markets?
Sure. A lot of them, I think, as an energy technology company, we clearly have a lot of examples. I would bring out some that together with Esther, we have our impact investing fund that is looking at some of these new innovations that we could be targeting. And very interesting, as Mahatma Gandhi said that necessity is a mother of invention, and when you are constrained, you tend to develop more innovation. We have a case in Vietnam where a company has been developing storage by heating sand, and it has been used in the process by Pepsi and Mondelez to see how they could make it part of the process. So it's still early stages, but a very interesting innovation. Another one.
What is this? Can you explain a little bit more?
This is the name of the company is Altern in Vietnam, which is what you do is you actually store the solar energy in sand, and then you use the heat over a period of time. Very basic, but it works. Second example from Nigeria, where we have a company called Okra Solar, which is working on peer-to-peer storage sharing, how they are able to create what they call as the word that they use is a mesh grid technology, which is actually using different battery storages in a village between the communities. Okay, and I think that's a very interesting innovation which is tailored to the local environment in Africa. The third one is in India from Freer Technology, which started as a rooftop company, but then migrated into energy management of homes, and how you are able to ensure that you are maximizing the usage of renewable energy instead of developing on the grid. We have also other ways where we have integrated the M-Pesa in Kenya, where you are able to buy small I would say small minutes of electricity, just like you buy small minutes of mobile telephone. So several examples like that, and it is for us how we are able to, what we do as impact investing is to identify them and then to say how we are able to help them commercialize it and scale it up.
And so Manish, we're switching role. Manish gives you what we call impact investing is our sustainable venture activities with very patient capital. I will talk about the business, so we're switching seats. Solar is a decentralized energy, but I don't really like that word because it doesn't give you the full extent to how this is going to transform electricity grids. Solar is integrated into buildings or into infrastructure. As solar is ramping up, and this is happening much faster in the global south because this is where most of the potential is, right? So there's like solar is completely changing electrical architectures. This is what we do at Schneider. We sell electrical architecture. Solar will bring massive disruption in the way electrical architecture being designed with more direct current and less alternate currents. This is a massive business disruption, and this will happen first in the south because it's induced by the growth of solar, and because the south does have more of the capacity today to challenge the status quo versus existing technologies, versus, let's say, developed economies where ecosystems and technologies are more installed and less agile. So this massive technology disruption will come from the global south.
And it is already. So when we look at the data, in 2024 alone, if we look at emerging markets and what choices countries are making, 75% of all the capacity added in the world in 2024 in emerging markets has been solar. Most of this is distributed solar. And distributed solar is now accounting for most of the solar investment. It's already disrupting emerging markets in a good way, but bringing significant challenges to the grid operators and other involved parties.
Exactly.
And in some cases, this has been underestimated. So some operators are actually suffering the consequences, and I believe going to you guys to help.
True. And I think you hit it on the spot that, and building on the point that was made by Esther before, you see, today when you're talking about the traditional energy, you're actually dependent on a few countries. Renewables gives you, thanks to decentralization, it gives you the freedom and gives you choices to make that you don't have to depend on them. The other is that you could bring it close to the source, therefore you can make it much more efficient than anything else. And yes, you need technologies, and this is where Schneider Electric comes in. Very pleased to say that here in Brazil, almost 60% of the distribution network is through Schneider Technologies, which is helping save energy, which is able to help integrate, I would say, renewables into the system to make sure there is resilience. I mean, we don't see, technology adoption of these technologies is going to prevent what happened in Spain or UK at some point of time, right? Because we saw that what happens when there's too much of renewables in the grid. So I think as it evolves, I would say the maturity of the technology, as well as therefore the benefits of integrating more and more decentralized solar is only going to increase.
And this is a major paradigm shift that I believe is being a little bit overlooked, because what actually happens is, because the cost of technologies has been going down so fast all over the world, it's not just governments and big investors that are making the choice to go with renewables. It's now the consumer, right? And I think there's a second wave in emerging markets that is starting to come, which is in EVs, that is also going to lead to some disruption.
True. Yeah, I think you have opened a topic that is very dear to us, because that's what we do for a living. We clearly believe that while on supply side a lot of talk has happened, and we all understand the value of renewables, which is coming on the supply side, not enough is done on the demand side. And you touched about it. EV is as one of them, which is coming, and we all start to see the benefit of that. But the same needs to happen everywhere else. Electrification is the most efficient form of energy. It is the most cleanest form of energy. It's a form of energy that you are able to measure, monitor, control in a real-time basis. And therefore, the more adoption that could happen for electrification will be great. Today, I'm quoting your company, which did the research and talks about 20% of the world today, energy is through electricity. That needs to move to 50%. As we say that, you require electricity not only for progress and growth, You now need electricity for intelligence. So, which is going to be the other driver, which is there. But it's true. The more of this happens, thanks to software, thanks to digital, and that's where Schneider Electric is investing a lot of money to say how we could be bringing those technologies to fruition and something that gives the resilience that is required in the new networks. But yes, in both of this, what is missing also is the investment that is required to connect the supply and demand, right?
Esther.
No, I mean, of course, I echo because we're part of the same company, so we share the same narrative. Maybe to go back to your question on policy and frameworks. So solar causing massive disruptions, innovation to the electrical architecture. It's also calling for a new adoption of new framework standards on the data. How do you manage and share data among all the stakeholders that play a part in the grid is going to be crucial. Crucial. It's a must-have to the good operation tomorrow of electricity grids because of EV on one side, so intermittent, unpredictable, hard to predict loads, so consumption, as well as solar and other renewables, which bring a lot of new patterns to the grid. This question of the data, I think, will be tackled seriously first by global south country. Let me tell you, not always easy to oppose things, but let me tell you what I observe. I observe developed countries that are too comfortable. They have overall a surplus of electricity or of energy in general. They have very resilient grids. They've benefit from past investments. Was this conversation is more urgent, is more critical if you're in a country where the grid is challenged today. And you were saying that, right? But this is a good challenge because, of course, there will be a transition along the way. But being part of the first countries to invent that data backbone that you need to operate the electrical grid is definitely going to be a competitive advantage and an asset for the global south countries in the future.
And let me tell you, countries are not doing a good job at learning from each other. And if emerging markets that are starting to see this decentralization boom right now are not looking around to learn from others, they're going to really suffer the challenges quite dramatically. And they will need you, and they will need this data innovation that you're talking about.
And I would say, so I completely agree, and I would add something. So deployment is going to be local, the technology stays global. Because in terms of scale and investment capability, the technology that we put to the market is, 80%, I would say, global technology. If that data backbone is not in its main aspects shared among countries, it cannot succeed. Because as a company, you reinvest and develop a new technology for each country you operate in. The scale is suboptimal. So the technology has to be global, and the data backbone in its main considerations has to be harmonized. So yes, countries need to learn from each other and to cooperate. And I see more appetites, a urgent need in the global south than conversations in typically in Europe where we're too comfortable and a bit lazy on how we think forward on these topics.
Are you seeing much progress on this front or not at all?
Yeah, I think we are seeing progress, and I would just add to what Esther said that for companies like ours, I think we have a role to play here, and clearly we do that. Maybe I can digress a little bit to share how we do that. Is we have created 4 hubs in the world. So we are a company without a headquarter. We have 4 hubs. We have a hub in North America. We have a hub in Europe. We have a hub in China, and we have a hub in India. And this is where we are taking the global platforms and then adapting those platforms to the local markets, to the local regulations. And therefore, it is happening, and we are able to answer to the needs of the customers better.
We're almost over time. But maybe to finish, I want to talk about forward-looking opportunities. What do you see, and this is completely off script, what do you see as the greatest opportunity for the Global South moving forward?
I mean, to me, it's the one we said before. I mean, the most exciting one is seeing the energy transition as infrastructure creation that will fuel both decarbonization as well as economic growth. And so, depending on the assets of your countries, what you have in terms of resources, thinking about how you're going to create that infrastructure, both to serve climate as well as competitiveness, is going to be, I hope, a major game changer in the balance between different countries. And hopefully 30 years from now, trades will be different because Global South would have taken a very different role in the global economy.
And I fully echo that what I said before, which is that green premium is a green discount is the new green premium in Global South. Net positive is the net zero for Global South. I think that's the way we are to take it. And just to finally, what we say always is what is good for the planet is good for the wallet, and therefore the two goes together.
I think that's the perfect way to finish it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Manish.